Dinnina jenna. Dinnina jenna.
Hello dear viewers, this is Open Horn of Africa, our weekly program GADAA, in which we entertain the GADAA values and its norms. Today I do have a guest from Oromia State University. My guest today is Dr. Geremew Huluka, President of the Oromia State University and social anthropologist. Today we will discuss about the cultural renaissance. Stay with us.
Dinnina jenna.
Dr. Geremew, thank you for your willing and for your precious time.
Thank you.
Today we will discuss about the cultural renaissance and what can we say about the culture and what is your take on that?
Thank you again. Before talking about cultural renaissance, I want to say something about the concept of culture itself, because most of the time people, when speak or think about culture, they think as if it is something backward and old, obsolete, like this. But culture is people's total way of life. We can simply say the way society lives, the way society guides its life. Actually, there are more than 300 definitions of culture. By the way, it is very complex and a comprehensive concept. So it includes like knowledge, art, material issues, and non-material ideas, as well as all other capabilities of human being are considered as culture.
Yeah, that's great. Would you tell us the concept of cultural renaissance, please?
Culture renaissance means just renewing or reviving a culture. That means reorienting the already originally existing culture, but harmed due to different reasons, forgotten due to different reasons in a given time interval. So when you think to renew your culture, to go back to your indigenous way of life, and to go back to your indigenous culture, it is usually called culture renaissance.
Yeah, that's great. Why the Oromo cultural renaissance is needed at this time?
Yeah, you see, as I've already said, culture is people's way of life. So when we come to specific to Oromo society, like other society actually, all society have their own culture, but specifically we are talking about Oromo culture. That's why I focus on Oromo culture. So Oromo society had its own way of life, the way of dressing, the way of style of dressing, the way of production, livelihood strategy, the way of leadership was already part of its culture. But unfortunately, due to different administrative reasons, the Oromo society failed to exercise its own culture. So impositions, cultural dominations, obstacles and the challenges for the 1 century imposed and harmed the Oromo culture. So that means it did not totally destroy, but ignored aside. They failed to exercise their right due to impositions and maladministrations. So, but currently, particularly after 1991, when Ethiopian government restructured self-federation and the axis, the Oromo society began to some extent to engage and exercise back to its culture. But still, for the last 30 or 27 years, it's from the society that different attempts were made to renew and reinstate its own culture, but the government was still systematically ignoring the social systems, the very important values that were very crucial for the livelihood of not only for the Oromo, even if it's admitted for other Ethiopians. Like for example, if we take GADAA system, it's the best democratic system, but paradoxically, Ethiopian governors do have a problem with democracy. So very recently, after the reform, particularly in the last 5 to 4 years, Oromia Regional State Government has taken a serious commitment to renew Oromo culture, not only in terms of speech and appreciation, but also the government took responsibility to make part of the governing system. We can take, for example, Busa Gonofa, which is legislatively approved by the Chafe Oromia, the highest body of the region. We can take what we call Tadajila Mumma. It's purposely that I speak in Afan Oromo. Yeah, when you translate it, it means its own originality. We can take Gachane Srna and the others, like 4 very important institutions that were part of Oromo culture were recognized and became part of the government policy, so that the Oromo society, yes, like Manamurti Ade, what we customary law, very, very impressive, and our society has the actual justice system. So it's very different from the so-called modern justice system. The so-called modern justice system based on the reasoning and testimony. Sometimes the testimonies may be false and allegations, but this indigenous court system based on truth finding, justice finding, truth finding. So it's helping our society so much. So therefore, especially I think it's around February 2025, the Oromia Regional Government again took another measure that focuses on what we call Harum Saada in Afan Oromo, cultural renaissance in English, equivalent to that.
Really, thank you. I appreciate. What is the focus area of the Oromo cultural renaissance?
Yeah, right. If I go to your question, yeah, the focus area of this cultural renaissance, the first one is on knowledge transfer. You see, knowledge should transfer from generation to generation. By the way, for the society to continue to survive, you see, in biology, usually people talk about individual basic needs. Usually, this is basic elementary information or knowledge. That's not food, shelter, clothes, we say. Yeah. But as a society, to survive and to continue, 5 things should be fulfilled. Otherwise, society will not continue. One is reproduction, actually. The second is culture transfer. You see? The other one is resource distribution, like we call market. The fourth one is peace and stability, internal and external peace. The fifth one usually referred as giving meaning for the society's life, just living for others. Knowledge, cultural knowledge should pass from generation to generation. Therefore, you see, the current generation is highly influenced by different external and internal factors, particularly the movement of dominant culture through what we call globalization, whatever you call, highly affects the current generation. Therefore, the current generation loses its own identity. Otherwise, all concerned bodies focus on how to pass knowledge about culture from generation to generation and how to accommodate, of course, the technology as well as others in terms of education, in terms of whatever. The second one is to increase or enhance economic production, the economic benefit of the society or as well as the country. And also the third one is the communication. Our communication style is highly influenced by different factors. If you take Oromo society in the past, if you take in GADAA system, for example, the way the member of assembly communicate with each other has its own value. The way the young communicates with the elder has its own pattern and governed by the norm. But nowadays, everybody speaks like he like or she like, no order. Hangafaf kutisu, we call in Afan Oromo.
Yeah.
That's totally ignored. So this has to be, we have to, restored. So these are, I think, the areas of focus of this cultural renaissance.
Very nice. I appreciate that. People have diversified cultural values. Can we say the Oromo people are benefited from this culture enough? What can you say on that? And if not, why?
Yeah, as I've mentioned in my introduction explanation, for the last century or 100 years, the Oromo society, in terms of culture and other, in terms of subjugation, under subjugation, and high political pressure. So let alone to benefit from his own culture, it was very difficult to speak even Afan Oromo during that time. Yeah. But maybe for in the last 30 years, the issue of promoting its own culture, language, whatever, is something very important, and there are so many benefits. But still, we are not benefiting up to our potential. This Oromo culture is very, very deep. Oromo philosophy is very deep and very helpful. The philosophy of GADAA, the philosophy of, as I've said, economic activities, the culture and the system of marriage. Therefore, you see, the Oromo society should develop its own economy in its own philosophical thinking. You see, when you look at the way the Oromo society were doing their business before 100 years, by the way, there are a lot of very important values, cultural values, that we as a current generation lack. Like, for example, production and productivity. Look, the concept of wealth creation. You see, Oromo Hori Bobasa Imelo, the concept of Hori is not only cattle, not only livestock, but it is a wealth. So it cannot, you cannot have simply many cattle without hard working. You cannot have such amount of land, plot of land without hard working. You cannot have high productivity of cereals and the crops without hard working. And you see, the Oromo calendar is related with Oromo time management that we are lacking today, that we are not properly using our time properly. And the discipline issue, Safu, the ethics. Again, Safu is very wide concept, but the ethics, we can say, the ethics of the nation. So all these are very important. So we have to bring these social values and the norms in order to govern our economic, social, and justice activities. That's the concept, by the intention is that. So our productivity should increase as a nation, as a Oromo society, as well as a region, and also for other Ethiopian society. Justice should be ensured, being from the grassroots level. If the society governed by its own ingenious justice system, that means the justice system becomes very flat, horizontal, and there is no injustice, or at least it minimizes the modern, what we call the crimes, the complicated crimes, what we see in the modern, the so-called modern society. Usually I use the modernity in quotation. I am not clear about the modernity actually. So that's the intention of Harum Saada, or cultural renaissance.
How do we see the socio-economic benefit of cultural renaissance?
Yeah, usually there should be very,
I appreciate really.
When we think about economic benefit of culture, the first thing is that culture should not be equated with commercial issues. You see, if you think in terms of commercialization of culture, totally it will be eradicated. But you cannot think again out of economic activities. You cannot think culture out of economic activities. That's why in the beginning, I remind you some very important definition very shortly. But it has its own economic benefit, directly as well as indirectly. Directly, like for example, we do have different cultural festivals that we can generate money from that through tourism activities. If you take Recha, it has a direct economic benefit through tourism. You see, if we work on it very hard and in the systematic way, we can generate. Another way, if we focus on our values help us, encourage us to be very much economic person, producer. We can boost our production capacity by following our culture. Like I mentioned, our time management. Our culture encourages strong persons who can produce, you see. And also, of course, if you take Busa Gonofa, it also supports the poor, not have. It's not a society of class or more society, as some claim, like there is age category, so it's like a class society, but it's a horizontal and very it's communal society, helping each other. For that, it has its own institution, Busa Gonofa. So all this, and it has its own way of educating from the, currently we call it kindergarten. The Oromo society has that kind of how to educate the children, the young, and the adult, how to make productive person. And on the saving again, you see, there are concepts of saving, you see. So all these are about economic benefit. It's not simply the direct exchange. That means you can take your culture to the market and sell it, no. But if your culture enables you to be hard worker, to be wealth creator, and to be properly helping others, as well as sharing what you have and promoting justice utilization of your resource, that means your culture is economic.
Yeah, very fantastic. What is work being done to make the existing generation to understand the philosophy of the GADAA system?
Oh, this is a very tough question, and usually worries me, including myself, due to different reasons, both internal and external reasons. Our biggest challenge today is how to make the generation to understand its identity and its culture. It's not actually the problem of the challenge of this Oromo society, but not only even Ethiopian society, but also it's a challenge all over the world. You see, there are different factors that affect your culture directly as well as indirectly. There are concepts that usually I call them cheap words like modernization, democracy, development. Everybody says them, but cannot properly conceptualize them. So as a result of these very seemingly beautiful concepts, we are usually cheated, like losing our identity. So it is very tough and challengeful, but still we have to work on it. And from social science point of view, 5 institutions are responsible to create a strong generation. These are, the first one is family institution. The second one is religious institution. The third one is the community itself. Fourth is media. And the fifth one is government itself. If all these are not properly acting on the generation, you cannot expect the product to be what you want to be. So unfortunately, whether it is from the Oromo society perspective or Ethiopian society, this is my opinion. Unfortunately, these all five institutions by themselves they are sick. They do have their own problem. Family does have its own problem. Even let alone saving the generation, nowadays family has a complex problem. The education system itself. So the religious institutions do have their own problem. Media. So all these five institutions took their own responsibility. From Oromo society's point of view, I want to add, maybe in terms of community, I don't know, the very important responsible council is the Bagadas Council. The Bagadas do have a great role in order to properly teach like they are now doing, even though it's not sufficient. They have their own problem again, by the way. So the actual GADAA should, we do have the actual GADAA, by the way, who respect the values, the norms of the GADAA system. Sure. There are so many things inside that GADAA currently, which is against GADAA system, like staying on the power for longer time. There are such kind of attempts that is very dangerous. Doing different malbehaving differently, using their power is also very dangerous. When we do have actual Bagadas, real Bagadas, the generation will follow them. Whether they speak or not, the generation will follow them as a role model. This current generation, by the way, needs role models. As a society, if you don't have role model, you don't expect society to exist and survive in the future. So therefore, particularly the Bagada, the curricula like currently the government is doing, like inserting GADAA system into education is very important. The SAFU, inserting SAFU into the curricula is very important. And again, adding other as a part of curriculum. So education system should play great role. And the family also. And the generation, particularly the young generation, should take responsibility of reading about GADAA system, about Oromo culture. Self-development is very important. But unfortunately, including myself, very recent generation focuses on social media. Social media could be source of information, but it cannot be source of knowledge. Particularly Facebook. There are so many articles on GADAA system. So many articles, so many books, particularly, unfortunately, he passed away before, I think, yesterday, Asmaro Mlagasa. GADAA, I think 1973 or 74. Very important book. So we have to read about history, about culture of the society. We have to do research. And also Oromo intellectuals, including myself. We have to work different studies and disseminate, teach. So this is very important.
Could you discuss the current status of preserving culture so as to benefit the nation from it?
Yeah, already I've discussed, but just to make very clear, yeah, specifically, Yeah, there are so many initiatives by the government, by different individuals, by the GADAA councils, and by hard thinkers. Nowadays, there are so many attempts, but it has to be done in a very organized way. And it has to be, by the way, culture should be neutralized, neutral. That means we should not use it as a political tool. If we are doing like this, it will be harmed. As Oromo, we have to be one in terms of the Oromo culture is concerned. You might be different in terms of political policy and affiliation, but the Oromo culture is for all Oromos. Even it can help other Ethiopians. So yeah, there are a good start and the beginning. Like the Oromia Culture and the Tourism Bureau is doing its best, Institute of Oromo Culture Study or Oromo Study. And there are different departments in different universities in Oromia. All these are good beginning. There are different journals and different academically. Afan Oromo is like 6 to 7 years back. Provided PhD in Afan Oromo is there, and if you go in each and every localities, there are a sort of like museum that tries to preserve Oromo culture, material culture particularly, and there are media including OBN and others are promoting and working on that, but still we have to work very seriously on this issue.
Could you discuss the current status of preserving culture so as to benefit the nation from it?
Yeah, already I have discussed, but just to make very clear, yeah, specifically, yeah, there are so many initiatives by the government, by different individuals, by the GADAA councils, and by hard thinkers. Nowadays, there are so many attempts, but it has to be done in a very organized way. And it has to be, by the way, culture should be neutralized, neutral. That means we should not use it as a political tool. If we are doing like this, it will be harmed. As Oromo, we have to be one in terms of the Oromo culture is concerned. You might be different in terms of political policy and affiliation, but the Oromo culture is for all Oromos. Even it can help other Ethiopians. So yeah, there are a good start and the beginning. Like the Oromia Culture and the Tourism Bureau is doing its best. Oromo Institute of Oromo Culture Study or Oromo Study. And there are different departments in different universities in Oromia. All these are good beginning. There are different journals and different academically. Afan Oromo is like 6 to 7 years back. Provided PhD in Afan Oromo is there, and if you go in each and every localities, there are a sort of like museum that tries to preserve Oromo culture, material culture particularly, and there are media including OBN and others are promoting and working on that, but still we have to work very seriously on this issue. The issue is not whether other countries are benefited from cultural renaissance or not. We can take as a model, but the very important issue is that what are important elements in your indigenous culture, the elements of the culture, so that the current generation can use. Like if yeah, you are right. This country, there are some countries like South Korea, even Japan, the others who did this, and they become successful in terms all aspects, economic and political, whatever. In terms of Oromo society, if you take the GADAA democracy as a democratic system, you see, is very strong and systematic political system that stabilizes this nation, the society. So, but practically other political systems that we imported from, whether from Asia or from Westerners, they failed to work in this country. The capitalism system failed to work. The socialism system failed to work. The Westernist democracy, the so-called majority system failed to work in Ethiopia. But GADAA system had been working for so many thousands of years. Actual democracy. So what if you apply this GADAA? Rather than indulging yourself, putting yourself into conflict and so many war and diseases, and taking people's life as well as resources. So what if? This does not mean that you totally go back to the way GADAA was operating, but there are so many values. Like, for example, let me take one, concessional democracy. It's part of GADAA. The GADAA Assembly never voted for the majority. 50 plus 1 is non-existence in. Yeah. It's consensus. Through consensus. There is no majority, no minority in GADAA system. You see? 50 plus 1 means just 51 is, 49 idea is rejected due to this, the so-called majority rule. But if it is concessional democracy, all can equally treated, and the best idea will be selected and implemented. You see, just to give you one example, best example. So Renaissance means just applying this one and solving the current of Ethiopian society or Oromo society in particular. Therefore, you can take like these examples. So the current values, the Oromo society's culture, do have special values that serve the so-called modern generation. That's my view.
Thank you so much. Recently, the government has been implementing initiatives like Busa Gonofa, the GADAA system education curriculum, and establishing the customary law. How much these initiatives are important in success of cultural renaissance?
What does Busa Gonofa mean? Busa Gonofa, you contribute and you help. You see? Busa is contribution, is that not? Gonofa is helping, is that not? First you contribute and then you help.
Which is the recent time save and
save and help. Like if you take the so-called international NGOs, Save the Children, USAID, whatever. But this institution was invented before thousands of years.
Absolutely.
It could be in terms of cattle. It was in terms of cattle maybe, in kind. It could be in terms of crop. You see? So the haves contribute and save some resource for the help of the non-haves. So what was the function of USAID? Even though nowadays President Trump abolished it. You see? Helping the poor, in quotation. Where is the source? It's contribution from American society. So, the Oromo society had this institution before thousands of years, and collecting and saving and helping the poor. Which one is important? Is it as a government as well as a society? Should you go to the Westerners or others to beg for your own society, begging the wheat, and bring it and distribute and make dependence, or encouraging your society to collect some resource and save and redistribute that one for the needy. This is Busa Gonofa. And of course, I personally know how much Busa Gonofa is doing in the last 3 years. And of course, as a university student and as someone who is engaging in different studies, I know what Busa Gonofa will do in the coming few years in Oromo society. It's not a joke, by the way. So this is a great commitment from the Oromia National State Government. You can take the customary law. Manamurti Ada, we call it. I know it again very well. I invite our scholars to study on these issues, on these two issues, and others, of course. How much our society had got justice, fair justice. Some of the cases I heard already wrongly decided before 20 and above years, and reversed by this customary law, and the fact and the truth were found, and not only fact and the truth, but also justice, reconciliation. In modern law, in the court, they don't have reconciliation. They treat justice or what based on reasoning and testimony. There is no concept of reconciliation there. But this customary law, Manamurti Ada, does reconciliation also. So sustainable and the peaceful, building peaceful society is very important. So these examples are suffice in terms of our time. Therefore, inserting GADAA into the curricula, it was amazing. Actually, I was part of it. I was in State Ministry of Education. I know it very well. And what the Oromia Education Bureau did. Maybe it may have its own some problems, but we can improve it. But the fact that having GADAA curriculum having GADAA as a one subject itself is very, very, very astonishing. So but we have to work on it to more develop it. So all these are very important initiatives, and they are meaningful as well as a lot, particularly for a person who know the history of Oromo society in this country and what were our past history. Did we have such kind of right, let alone putting GADAA into your own curriculum? It was very difficult to speak about GADAA, but now we are doing best. The government is trying its best, and still in the future there are so many things that we have to do. For me, when I think sometimes, including myself, about Oromo scholars, I question about the importance of freedom. During the past years, because there was very high political pressure and domination, the Oromo scholars, our elders, they did a lot of things. They wrote Oromo history. We can take persons like Muhammad Hassan, Professor Tasamma, Professor Muhammad, Safa Jallata. A lot, just to mention few. They wrote about Dr. Geremew Magarsa. A lot you can mention. The environment was not conducive for them, but they did their best on Oromo culture. But very recently, with scholars, we took for granted. We are not doing best. We are not writing much. We are not training much. This has to be changed. The writing could be critics. It could be positive. but there should be continuation of research and writings, debate. Therefore, the culture, the scholars contribute their own role. The Oromia Culture and Tourism Bureau is doing its best, and they have to continue doing like this. And the government also doing its best, and it has to continue more. The media itself, like OBIN, is doing its best. I do have a great appreciation, but continue to work more. And the scholars should work on this issue and bring to the table and discuss. I have said that the cultural issues should be our common denominator. We may have different political views, ideas. The cultural issue, the identity issue, Oromia, should be our denominator. So we have to discharge our responsibility.
I appreciate that. If you have a final message, the floor is yours, please.
Yeah, I've already said what I want to say. So this cultural renaissance is just going back, bringing back your culture. So all concerned actors should act their role properly. That's my final message. Thank you.
Dr. Geremew Huluka, President of the Oromia State University and social anthropologist, really I appreciate for your vivid explanation and for your precious time.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, you do have some information about the cultural renaissance from our discussion. That brings us to the end for today. Till next edition, have a wonderful time.
Dinnina jenna.
Harus jangan nabas, nabi sana bas, nabi kana bas, kata misana kut, kata milkana kut, misana kut, kata milkana kut.